Hello there, thanks for coming by PosterCentral.com's video blog today. I'm Pete Howard, and check this thing out, this small, fun little piece, Crosby, Stills, Nash Young in the 1960s. I mean, how often did that happen? Beautiful November '69 flyer. You know, this was for one of only 23 shows that Crosby, Stills, Nash Young performed in 1969 or the 60s. And so if you want a 60s piece on these guys, it's very slim pickings. But here we have one for sure. It's small, it's kind of crude, but it's, you know, it's charismatic. Pink handbill from November 9 of 1969 in Santa Barbara, California. And you know, it's interesting, I often like to address the first thing you notice. The picture's crazy, right? It's got just Cros and Graham Nash. So what's up with that? Where's the other two guys? It's very unusual. Kind of interesting the way Crosby's head almost appears to be resting on Graham's shoulder. But, you know, I don't know why the nature of that picture. It's just the loose, freewheeling, who cares 60s is all I can think of before. This was just before big business really kicked into the concert industry in the early 70s and largely led by CSNY and their big, expensive national tours. But it's almost like this photo was culled from a larger photo. I don't know, but it's a very crude, interesting picture, and it's just got one half of the band on there, which is kind of funny. So as I said, this is a small piece. It's 8.5 inches by 5 inches on thin pink paper. And you know, it's just you know, unique in so many ways. You just haven't really seen something like this before, although small paper handbills were common, of course, in the 60s. Taking it from the top there, as you can see in the upper left, it says Sunday, November 9, sort of stylized writing, not quite psychedelic. In the upper right, 1 p.m. And then Crosby, Stills, Nash, Young. There's no "and" there. Young almost looks like a little bit of an add-on there, which he sort of has been throughout the band's entire career. And then down below the picture, as you can see, it says Sweetwater. And you know, they were a band from Los Angeles, and they had a couple of interesting footnotes to their career. They were scheduled to be the opening act, period, at Woodstock 3 months earlier in August. My goodness. But they got held up, pulled over perhaps by the police or something. Their car got held up on the way to Woodstock. Of course, a lot of people got held up on all the roads. And so Richie Havens was called out to please go on first, Richie. And I think he's told his own version of the story many times. And so Richie did his set, immortalized in the Woodstock movie, and Sweetwater, which didn't make the Woodstock movie, then followed Richie Havens, and so they could claim the rest of their lives they were the first band to play at the Woodstock Festival. But here they are in November of that year on the CSNY flyer. And then as you can see below that, it says plus special guest, and that was supposed to be Steve Miller. He was supposed to play this gig as the special guest, but he didn't play, and instead the third billed band was Dayspring, another group out of Los Angeles. And then down in the pink portion at the bottom, of course it's all pink, but you know the pink block there, it does say University of California, Santa Barbara, $3.75 in advance, $4.25 at the door, and a $1 advance discount for UCSB students, which means, of course, if you were a student and bought in advance, you could see this legendary quartet in their earliest days for just $2.75. And it was a great time to see them. They were right in the middle of recording their second album, or I should say, of course, CSN had the first album, so technically the first CSNY album, Deja Vu, which was a baby boomer classic, needless to say. They were right in the middle of recording that, and as a matter of fact, just 2 days before this show, on November 7, they completed Neil Young's song Helpless for the Deja Vu album. So they were very much in the studio in between shows here. This was not really a tour. This was just like these 23 dates were sort of an assortment of gigs they were doing in the area. So you know, it's rudimentary, it's crude, and it's small and everything, but it's a CSNY piece from between the Woodstock and Altamont festivals. Talk about the good and the bad, right? Both of which they did play. So, and saving the little personal point for last, because I didn't want to bother you with it, but I was actually at this show. I attended this show as a young man who had just gotten his driver's license. And I remember several things about it, the key things being Down by the River was so spectacular. the Neil Young song that the four guys jammed on so beautifully with their bass and drummer, of course. And Crosby at one point really teased the crowd. He's got his electric guitar on. He plays the first few bars or seconds of Mr. Tambourine Man, the big Birds hit, of course, from '65. And he just stopped, and had a big grin on his face. And there's just this woo that rippled through the large crowd. Those, the magical chords of the electric version of Mr. Tambourine Man. And I could be wrong, but I bet Cros did that at every show just to get a rise out of people, but who knows. So anyway, hope you enjoyed seeing the piece from November of 1969. These guys are still, how many years later? 45 years later, at the point of this video being made, still alive and kicking, gigging all the time, right? Still very vital and everything. So great to have such an early piece. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for coming by, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.